Lily was only 8 years old when her life changed in a way she never expected. She had always been a quiet girl, soft-spoken, gentle, and happiest when she sat beside a piano. At home, she played simple melodies her mother taught her, and every note made her feel warm inside. But everything felt different when she stepped into her new school for the first time. The building looked huge to her, almost like a castle. Tall windows, shiny floors, long hallways, and classrooms filled with neat desks. It was nothing like her old school. Lily held her mother's hand tightly as they walked in, but her mother had to leave soon after. She kissed Lily's forehead, told her to be brave, and assured her she would do wonderfully. Lily tried to smile, but her heart felt heavy. Inside her classroom, she noticed that all the children were wearing neat uniforms and seemed very confident. Some chatted loudly with their friends, some laughed, and others sat proudly at their desks. Lily, with her small frame and nervous expression, felt like she didn't belong. She found an empty seat in the second row and sat quietly, hoping no one would notice how scared she felt. The school was known for its strict music program. Students came from wealthy families and had been learning instruments since they were very young. Lily, on the other hand, learned piano at home, on a keyboard that was older than she was. She loved music, but she didn't have the same fancy training the others did. She worried they might think she wasn't good enough. As she sat there, she looked around and saw a grand piano at the front of the classroom. Its polished black surface shined under the light. Lily felt a small spark of comfort. Pianos always made her feel safe, but she also felt nervous. Would she have to play in front of everyone? What if she made a mistake? What if the other kids laughed? While she silently worried, the classroom door opened. A tall woman with silver hair tied neatly in a bun stepped in. She was dressed perfectly, wearing a stiff blue sweater, a white collared shirt, and a sharp expression. Her name was Mrs. Alden, the famous piano instructor. Students whispered her name with fear and respect. Some said she had taught professional musicians. Others said she didn't tolerate weakness. Lily sat straighter in her seat, hoping she wouldn't be noticed. Mrs. Alden walked to the center of the room, her footsteps firm and controlled. "Good morning, students," she said in a crisp voice. The class responded politely. Then her sharp eyes scanned the room and they stopped on Lily. "You must be the new girl," Mrs. Alden said. "Lily, correct?" Lily nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Alden's expression didn't soften. "You are new to our music program. Here we expect discipline, excellence, and commitment. I hope you are prepared to work hard." Lily swallowed nervously. "I will try my best." "Trying is not enough here," Mrs. Alden replied, turning away. The words struck Lily like a heavy weight. She already felt nervous, but now she felt something deeper: fear. What if her best wasn't good enough? Throughout the day, Lily noticed how differently the school ran. Every class was strict, every schedule timed perfectly. The teachers expected students to behave like adults. Even during music class, the other children played their instruments with confidence and skill. Lily admired them, but she also felt smaller each time she watched them play. During lunchtime, Lily sat alone at a small table. She didn't know anyone yet, and she was too shy to join other groups. Some students glanced at her curiously, some looked uninterested, and a few whispered quietly. She tried not to let it bother her, but the loneliness sat heavily in her chest. She missed her old school. She missed her old friends. She missed the comfort of knowing she belonged. When the final bell rang, Lily felt exhausted, not from the lessons themselves, but from the pressure of trying to stay brave all day. As she walked toward the gate, she passed by the music room again. The big piano inside gleamed under the afternoon light. She paused and stared at it for a moment. Music had always been her safe place, but here, she wasn't sure if it would stay that way. She remembered her mother's encouraging words, but the fear inside her felt stronger. She whispered to herself, "I hope tomorrow is easier." But deep down, Lily sensed that tomorrow might not be easier at all. She didn't know that Mrs. Alden had already formed an opinion about her. She didn't know the challenges waiting for her. She didn't know that her love for music would soon be tested in painful ways. Yet she also didn't know something else. Inside her small, nervous heart lived an extraordinary talent, one so powerful that even humiliation couldn't break it. And the day would come when the entire school would see it. Mrs. Alden quickly became the most frightening part of Lily's new school life. From the moment Lily stepped into her first real piano class, she could feel the teacher's strictness filling the room like cold air. The other children sat up straight the moment Mrs. Alden entered, their backs stiff, their hands folded on their laps. They were afraid of disappointing her, and Lily soon understood why. Mrs. Alden believed that talent meant nothing without discipline. She believed children should follow every instruction perfectly, without hesitation, without questions. Her voice was never loud, but her sharp tone cut through the classroom like a knife. Even the confident students lowered their eyes when she spoke. Lily, who was already shy, felt even smaller in her presence. During their first lesson, Mrs. Alden made each student play a short piece to evaluate their skill level, as she called it. One by one, the students walked to the piano playing confidently. Some made mistakes, but Mrs. Alden simply corrected them with a stern comment. But when it was Lily's turn, the pressure felt heavier. "Lily, Mrs. Alden said, tapping the piano bench with her finger. "Come." Lily's palms felt sweaty as she stood. Her legs trembled slightly, but she forced herself to walk to the front. The entire class watched her with curious eyes. Some looked bored, others sympathetic, and a few looked amused, expecting her to fail. Lily took a slow breath and sat down at the grand piano. She placed her fingers gently on the keys, reminding herself of the melodies she played at home. But the piano here felt different, bigger, heavier, colder. She pressed the first key, then another, and soon she began playing a simple tune her mother had taught her. It wasn't perfect, but it was heartfelt. When she finished, silence followed. Mrs. Alden's expression did not change. No smile, no encouragement, nothing. She said finally, "Your posture is weak, your tempo is unstable, and your technique is undeveloped." Lily felt a sting in her chest. She lowered her eyes. I'm still learning." Mrs. Alden stepped closer. "Every student here is learning, yet they do not play with such hesitation." She sighed sharply. "You will need special attention." The class snickered quietly. Lily felt her face turn red. Special attention didn't sound like help. It sounded like trouble. For the rest of the lesson, Mrs. Alden barely looked at Lily unless it was to correct her harshly. If Lily pressed a note too softly, Mrs. Alden snapped stronger. If she slowed down, Mrs. Alden said, "Do you not understand rhythm?" If she asked a question, Mrs. Alden replied, "Think before you speak." The pressure was overwhelming. By the end of the day, Lily's shoulders felt heavy. She walked out of class more exhausted mentally than physically. A few students whispered behind her as she passed, "She's so slow. Why is she even here? She can't keep up." What? Lily tried not to listen, but every word sank into her heart. The next few days were no different. Mrs. Alden continued pushing her harder than the others. She gave Lily more difficult pieces, more drills, more corrections. Lily stayed late after class practicing, trying to catch up. She wanted to prove that she could do it, that she wasn't a mistake in this school, but Mrs. Alden never seemed satisfied. One afternoon, Lily stayed behind to practice alone. She wanted to show improvement before the next day's lesson. As she played, she felt someone watching her. She turned and saw Mrs. Alden standing in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're still slow," the teacher said. Lily swallowed nervously. "I'm trying my best." Mrs. Alden walked closer. "Your best is not enough. If you continue like this, the class will outgrow you." Lily lowered her gaze. Those words hurt the most. Mrs. Alden continued, "This school expects excellence. If you cannot meet that standards, you will be left behind." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. She didn't want to cry in front of her teacher. She didn't want to give Mrs. Alden another reason to think she was weak. The teacher's voice softened, just a little but enough to confuse Lily. "If you want to survive here, you must learn to handle pressure. Music is not a game." Mrs. Alden walked away, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts. Lily stared at the piano keys through blurry eyes. She felt small, scared, and defeated. She wondered why Mrs. Alden disliked her so much, why she had to push her so hard, why she had to embarrass her in front of everyone. But deep inside her heart, something else stirred. It wasn't anger, it wasn't bitterness. It was determination. She whispered to herself, "I won't give up, I can be better, I'll show her." What? Lily didn't know it yet, but this determination, small and fragile, would one day grow into something powerful. Something that even Mrs. Alden would not be able to ignore. For now, though, the struggle had only begun. As the weeks passed, Lily slowly realized that Mrs. Alden treated her differently from the other students, far more harshly, far more impatiently, and far more publicly. At first, Lily thought it was because she was new. Maybe Mrs. Alden expected her to catch up quickly. Maybe she believed strictness would help her learn faster. But soon Lily understood that her teacher's sharp eyes seemed to follow her more than anyone else's. Every day during music class, Lily sat tensely at her desk, waiting for the moment when Mrs. Alden would call her name. Sometimes she hoped she could disappear, just vanish, like a quiet note fading away, but she couldn't escape. Mrs. Alden always found a reason to single her out. "Lily, you're sitting wrong, fix your posture." "Lily, that's not how you hold your hands, were you not listening?" "Lily, you're dragging the tempo again, why can't you keep up?" What? The words were never shouted, but they cut deeper than yelling. The other students noticed, and some began whispering among themselves, amused by Lily's struggles. She could hear their soft comments when she walked back to her seat. "She's too slow." "What? She doesn't belong here. Mrs. Alden must hate her." These whispers burned in Lily's ears and stayed in her heart long after class ended. But nothing hurt Lily more than when Mrs. Alden looked directly at her with that cold, disappointed expression, as if Lily had personally offended her by not being perfect. One day, during a practice session, Mrs. Alden asked each student to play scales at increasing speeds. Most of the students performed well, their fingers flying across the keys with confidence. When it was Lily's turn, her hands trembled. She placed her fingers on the piano, took a breath, and began. She wasn't terrible, but she wasn't fast enough. She hesitated once, then again. Her nerves tightened her hands, making her movement stiff. Mrs. Alden crossed her arms tightly. "Stop." Lily froze. "That was painfully slow," the teacher said. "Are you afraid of the keyboard?" A few students giggled quietly. Lily looked down. "I'm sorry, I just—" "No excuses," Mrs. Alden interrupted. "If you cannot play something so simple, perhaps you are not ready for this level of training." Lily felt tears sting her eyes, but she held them back. Crying would only make things worse. Mrs. Alden continued speaking, but her tone softened in a way that did not feel kind. "Lily, some children simply do not have natural musical ability. That is nothing to be ashamed of." The class looked at Lily. She felt her cheeks burn with humiliation. She had only wanted to learn to fit in. But here she was being labeled in front of everyone. A girl sitting behind Lily whispered to her friend, "Told you she had no talent." What? Lily's heart sank even deeper. After class, she stayed behind to practice alone, hoping nobody would notice her red eyes. She wanted to understand what she was doing wrong. She wanted to believe she could improve. She wanted to prove Mrs. Alden wrong just once. As Lily played, she didn't hear the classroom door open. Mrs. Alden watched her silently for a moment before walking forward. "You're still here." Lily flinched slightly. "I just wanted to practice a little more." Mrs. Alden didn't speak immediately. She stood near the piano, studying Lily's hands as they moved hesitantly across the keys. After a few seconds, she sighed sharply. "You're playing without confidence," she said. "No wonder you make so many mistakes." Lily bit her lip. "I'm trying." "Trying is not enough," Mrs. Alden replied. "Music demands perfection. And you must learn to accept criticism if you wish to stay in this class." Lily nodded weakly, though her heart hurt. Then the teacher added something that Lily never forgot. "Some students become great musicians. Others become examples of what happens when discipline is lacking. You do not want to become the latter." Her words were sharp, too sharp for an 8-year-old's heart. Lily felt them like a weight pressing on her chest. When Mrs. Alden left the room, Lily stopped playing and sat quietly on the piano bench. Her hands rested gently on the keys, but she didn't move them. She didn't know if she was sad, scared, or simply tired. She whispered to herself, "Why can't I be good enough?" But even in her sadness, something inside her refused to break. She remembered how she used to play at home, how music felt soft, warm, alive. She remembered how her mother smiled when she played, how her fingers once danced freely on the keyboard, how she felt safe in those moments. "I love music," she told herself quietly. "I won't let her take that away." What? She didn't know how much more humiliation she would face. She didn't know that Mrs. Alden's harshness would soon push her to a breaking point. She didn't know that the entire class would witness something shocking. But she knew one thing. She would not give up, not yet. The spark inside her was small, but it was still burning. And one day it would shine brighter than anyone expected, including Mrs. Alden. The day that changed everything for Lily began like any ordinary school morning. She walked into class quietly, clutching her music notebook tightly against her chest. She hoped today would be different. She hoped maybe Mrs. Alden would be in a better mood, or maybe she wouldn't notice Lily too much. But deep down, she already knew nothing ever went the way she wished in this classroom. When the bell rang, all the students took their seats. Mrs. Alden entered with her usual stiff posture and sharp eyes. Without greeting the class, she placed her clipboard on the piano and cleared her throat. "Today," she announced, "each of you will play the piece assigned last week." What? A murmur moved across the room. Some students straightened proudly, ready to impress. Others looked nervous, but not nearly as nervous as Lily, whose heart began pounding harder with each second. Mrs. Alden continued, "We will begin with the more advanced students at the back and work our way forward." Lily sat in the second row, her stomach dropped. The first few students performed beautifully. Quick fingers, perfect posture, confident expressions. Each time someone finished, Mrs. Alden nodded approvingly, sometimes even offering a small compliment. Lily watched them all, wishing she could feel that confident. But Lily's assigned piece was much harder than theirs. Mrs. Alden had given her a level far above her experience, as if setting her up for failure. Lily had practiced every night until her fingers ached, but she still struggled with the speed and transitions. The thought of playing it in front of the whole class made her chest feel tight. Finally, only Lily and one other boy remained. Mrs. Alden tapped her pen impatiently. "Lily, your turn." Every pair of eyes turned toward her. Her legs felt weak as she stood and walked to the piano. She could hear whispers behind her. A few students smirked, already expecting another failure. Lily sat on the bench, trying to steady her breath. She placed her fingers on the keys, but her hands were trembling. She remembered practicing this piece hundreds of times at home, but right now her mind felt empty. Mrs. Alden stood beside her with crossed arms. Begin. Lily pressed the first keys. The opening notes came out softly, too softly. She tried to increase the volume, but her nerves made her touch uneven. She stumbled on a transition. She slowed down. Her right hand lost the rhythm for a moment. Giggles rippled through the classroom. Lily's cheeks burned. She tried again, picking up where she left off, but the more she tried, the worse it became. Her hands froze entirely at one difficult part and she lifted them helplessly. Mrs. Alden sighed loudly. Stop. The class grew silent. The teacher's voice was cold and disappointed. This is unacceptable, Lily. You clearly came unprepared. I practiced, Lily whispered, her throat tight. Mrs. Alden raised an eyebrow. Practiced? That performance was careless, slow, and full of mistakes. Do you think this class is a playground? Lily's eyes stung with tears, but she refused to cry. Mrs. Alden turned toward the rest of the class. This, she said loudly, gesturing at Lily, is what happens when a student lacks discipline. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Lily felt a sharp, painful twist in her heart. She couldn't believe she was being used as an example of failure. The teacher wasn't finished. Since you claim to have practiced, Mrs. Alden continued, her voice icy, you will demonstrate it properly. You will play the piece again from the start. Lily's breath caught again. Yes, the teacher snapped, and correctly this time the class will watch. Lily felt her insides tremble. She placed her hands on the keys again, but her fingers wouldn't move. The room felt too bright, too loud, too full of eyes staring at her. Play, Mrs. Alden demanded. Lily tried, she truly did. But her hands only shook harder. She hit a wrong note, then another. She could hear whispers, quiet laughter, shifting seats. Mrs. Alden's voice lashed out again. You are embarrassing yourself and wasting everyone's time. Those words broke something inside her. Tears slipped from Lily's eyes, though she tried to hide them. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to be anywhere but here, sitting under the weight of humiliation. Mrs. Alden straightened her papers. Go back to your seat. We will discuss your lacking performance later. Lily stood, feeling smaller than she ever had in her life. She walked slowly back to her desk, staring at the floor so she wouldn't see the other children whispering behind their hands. But even though she felt shattered, something inside her heart, something tiny, fragile but powerful, refused to die. As she sat down, still wiping her tears, she whispered to herself almost silently, I know I can play better than this. She had been humiliated, pushed down, and made into an example. But she still loved the piano. She still loved music. She knew deep down she was capable of more than anyone believed. And in the days to come, Lily's hidden talent would rise in a way that none of them, including Mrs. Alden, ever expected. That night, after Lily returned home from school, she locked herself in her room quietly. She didn't want her mother to see her red eyes or trembling hands. The humiliation from class still echoed in her mind. Mrs. Alden's cold voice, the students' laughter, the crushing pressure of being forced to play again and again. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her small hands. Why did I freeze? She whispered. Why couldn't I show them what I really can do? Her mother knocked softly on the door. Lily, sweetheart, can I come in? Lily wiped her tears quickly. Why, yes. Her mother sat beside her and wrapped an arm gently around her shoulders. Rough day. Lily leaned into her, unable to hide her sadness anymore. Mom, Mrs. Alden made me play in front of everyone, twice, and I couldn't do it. Everyone laughed at me. Her mother hugged her tighter. Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry. I practiced, Lily cried softly. I practiced so much, I tried so hard. But when I sat there, my hands just wouldn't play. Her mother rubbed her back. Sometimes fear makes us forget what we know, but fear doesn't mean you lack talent. Lily sniffed, her voice small. Mrs. Alden said I was an example of what happens when someone doesn't have discipline. Her mother frowned gently. That's not true, you have discipline. You're 8 years old and you're already trying harder than most adults. Don't let anyone make you believe you're less than you are. Lily looked down, but what if she's right? Her mother lifted her chin so Lily had to meet her eyes. Listen to me, you love music, that is your gift. A teacher can push you, guide you, correct you, but they cannot decide your worth. Only you can decide that. Lily felt a warmth bloom in her chest. Hearing those words made her sadness feel lighter, even if just a little. After dinner, Lily went to the living room where the old keyboard sat. Its keys were worn, the paint faded, and some notes were slightly off tune, but to Lily it was home. She sat down slowly and placed her fingers gently on the keys. No pressure, no judgment, no eyes watching her, just her and the music. She took a deep breath and began playing the same piece she had failed to play in class. The first notes came out shaky, but then her fingers found their rhythm. Her heart relaxed. The familiar warmth returned. She played slowly at first, then faster, then with emotion, real emotion, not the forced performance Mrs. Alden demanded. Her mother stood quietly in the doorway, watching with tears in her eyes. Lily had always played beautifully at home, but tonight there was something new in her performance, something deeper, braver. When Lily finished, she looked up nervously. Was that okay? Her mother smiled. Lily, that was incredible. Lily's eyes widened. Really? Yes, her mother said, walking closer. You didn't just play the notes, you made them feel alive. That is something no teacher can force out of you. That is something only you have. Lily felt her heart flutter with renewed confidence. Maybe she wasn't hopeless, maybe she wasn't a failure, maybe just maybe she had something special. Her mother held her hands gently. Tomorrow play for you, not for Mrs. Alden, not for your classmates, for you. Lily nodded slowly. Okay, I'll try. No, her mother corrected softly. You will do, and you'll surprise them. That night, Lily practiced until she felt the music settle deep into her bones. She played the difficult parts again and again, but this time she didn't feel scared. She felt determined. She felt strong. When she finally went to bed, she whispered into her pillow, I won't let them humiliate me again. I know who I am. And for the first time in a long time, she fell asleep with a small, hopeful smile. The next morning at school, the classroom buzzed with whispers. Some students still made comments about her embarrassing performance, but Lily kept her head high. Today felt different. The fear wasn't as loud anymore. When Mrs. Alden entered, her sharp gaze swept across the room and landed on Lily. She didn't say anything, but Lily could tell her teacher expected nothing from her. But that was about to change. Lily didn't know it yet, but a moment was coming. A moment where she would play with more strength and emotion than ever before. A moment when every student would sit in stunned silence. A moment Mrs. Alden could not deny. Because humiliation had pushed Lily down. But her hidden talent was about to rise up, brighter and stronger than anyone imagined. The next day felt different the moment Lily stepped into the classroom. She still felt nervous. Her hands still trembled a little and her stomach twisted when she saw the grand piano, but something inside her had changed. A quiet strength had begun to grow, like a tiny light in the dark. Her mother's words stayed with her, play for yourself, not for her. Lily repeated those words in her mind as she took her seat. She didn't know what Mrs. Alden had planned for today. She didn't know if her teacher would ignore her, scold her, or force her to play again. But she knew one thing, she wasn't going to let fear swallow her anymore. The class began as usual. Mrs. Alden walked in with her clipboard, expression serious and unreadable. The students straightened instantly. Lily sat quietly in the second row, her heart beating fast but steady. Today, Mrs. Alden said, we will move on to a new exercise. Her voice echoed through the room. Rhythm, accuracy, confidence, these are essential. Some of you understand this. Others. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Lily. Need improvement. Lily felt a pinch in her chest, but she didn't lower her eyes this time. She kept looking forward. The class moved into paired practice. Students were grouped into pairs to help each other learn a new rhythm exercise. The room filled with the sound of clapping, tapping, and counting. Lily was paired with Mia, a girl who wasn't unkind but wasn't friendly either. Mia sighed dramatically and said, try to keep up, okay. Lily nodded, I'll do my best. They started practicing together, clapping out the rhythm pattern. Lily made a few mistakes at first, but she corrected herself quickly. She focused not on fear, not on the pressure, but on the sounds, the beats, the timing. Bit by bit she improved. Mia stared at her. You're actually not that slow. Lily smiled nervously, thank you. But their progress didn't go unnoticed. From across the room, Mrs. Alden watched Lily closely. Her eyes narrowed, surprised, then doubtful, then slightly irritated. She had expected Lily to drag down the exercise. Instead, she seemed to be keeping up just fine. After a few minutes, Mrs. Alden clapped loudly for attention. Enough. Everyone back to your seats. Back to your seats. Lily's heart thudded. She knew what was coming. Mrs. Alden stepped toward the piano. We will now test individual progress one at a time. She paused, scanning the room. And we will begin with Lily. The class turned to look at her. Even though she had expected this, Lily felt her breath catch. But instead of freezing, she reminded herself, play for yourself. She walked to the piano with slow, steady steps. Her knees felt weak, but her heart was firm. She sat on the bench, placed her hands gently on the keys, and waited for instructions. You will play yesterday's scale exercise, Mrs. Alden said, correctly this time. Some classmates giggled softly. Lily ignored them. She took a deep breath. Then she began. Her fingers moved slowly at first, but they didn't shake like before. She remembered how she practiced at home, how she breathed with the music, how each note was a friend, not an enemy. She played the scale carefully but confidently. The room grew quiet. Even the students who expected her to fail watched with surprise. Her hands moved smoother, her timing more stable. She kept going, focusing only on the keys in front of her. When she finished, she lifted her hands from the keyboard calmly, her heart pounding but proud. Mrs. Alden's eyebrows raised slightly. The class whispered, that was actually good. She didn't mess up this time. Wow, where did that come from? Lily looked at Mrs. Alden, waiting for her reaction. The teacher didn't look pleased, but she didn't look impressed either. Her expression was unreadable. That was acceptable, Mrs. Alden finally said. It wasn't praise, but it wasn't humiliation either, and for Lily it meant everything. She walked back to her seat with a tiny smile she tried to hide. Her classmates didn't laugh at her this time. Some even looked at her with mild respect or at least less judgment, but the day wasn't over. Near the end of class, Mrs. Alden announced, "Next week we will hold a performance evaluation in front of the entire school department. Each student will play one piece." Gasps filled the room. Even the confident students looked nervous. Lily's heart nearly stopped. A performance in front of the whole department. Mrs. Alden continued, "This evaluation will determine placement for next term. It is important. Choose your piece wisely." Students began whispering excitedly, but then Mrs. Alden called out, "Lily." Lily looked up slowly. "You will play the same piece you struggled with yesterday." Lily's breath caught the difficult piece, the one she failed at. The one that humiliated her. A wave of fear washed through her. But then unexpectedly something else rose inside her too, determination. She remembered last night's practice, her mother's encouragement, her success earlier today. Her growing strength. She nodded, "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Alden blinked, slightly surprised that Lily didn't object. And Lily returned to her seat thinking, "I can do this, I will do this, and next week I'll show them all." The spark inside her was no longer tiny. It was growing into a flame. The week leading up to the performance evaluation felt like the longest week of Lily's life. Every morning she woke up thinking about the piece she had to play, the same difficult piece that had once humiliated her in front of the entire class. Every night before going to sleep, she played it again and again, practicing until her fingers grew sore. But this time, her fear didn't control her. Her determination did. She didn't practice because she feared Mrs. Alden. She practiced because she wanted to feel proud of herself. She practiced because she loved music, and she wanted that love to shine. Each day at school, Lily noticed something new. Students who had laughed at her before now watched her quietly. She wasn't sure if they expected her to fail again or succeed. All she knew was that they were paying attention. Even Mrs. Alden began observing Lily with a different kind of interest, not softer or kinder, but sharper, as if she was trying to understand what had changed. One afternoon, as Lily practiced in the music room alone, Mrs. Alden entered silently and stood behind her. Lily didn't notice at first. She was too focused. Her fingers moved with more confidence than ever before, still not perfect, but steady, strong, alive with emotion. When she finished the piece, she finally turned around and gasped slightly when she saw her teacher. "Mrs. Alden, I didn't hear you come in." The teacher's face showed no smile but also no annoyance. She simply said, "You have improved." Lily blinked. She had never heard Mrs. Alden say anything close to praise before. "You still lack polish," the teacher continued, "but there is something in the way you play, something emotional. You are learning to control your fear." Lily's heart warmed. It wasn't kindness, not exactly, but it was acknowledgement, and that meant something. Mrs. Alden walked closer to the piano. "But emotion alone will not save you in the performance. Practice the transitions. They are your weakest points." Then she turned and left the room without another word. For the first time, Lily didn't feel crushed by her teacher's criticism. Instead, she felt motivated. She thought to herself, "If she believes I can improve, maybe I really can." That night, Lily practiced the transitions over and over. Her fingers stumbled, then corrected themselves. She learned how every note connected to the next, how the rhythm flowed, how the melody breathed. The more she practiced, the more the music felt like part of her. Finally, the day of the performance arrived. Students buzzed nervously in the large auditorium where the evaluations would take place. Teachers sat in the first row with clipboards, ready to score the performances. Parents were present too, including Lily's mother, who sat with worried eyes but a hopeful smile. When Lily saw her mother, she ran to her and hugged her tightly. "You've got this," her mother whispered. "I believe in you." Lily nodded. "I'll try my best." "No," her mother corrected gently. "You'll do your best, and that's enough." The performances began. One by one, the students walked onto the stage and played. Some performed flawlessly, others made mistakes, but all of them looked nervous under the bright lights. Finally, it was Lily's turn. Her name was called. Whispers rose from the crowd. "Is that the girl who messed up last time? She's going to freeze again, right? Why did Mrs. Alden assign her that difficult piece?" Lily heard every word, but instead of shrinking, she let the words pass through her like wind. She walked to the piano with steady steps and sat down. She looked out into the audience and met her mother's eyes. Her mother mouthed silently, "I love you." Lily's heart filled with warmth. She looked down at the piano keys. This time the keys didn't look big or cold or frightening. They looked familiar, like home. She placed her fingers on the keys and took a deep breath. "Play for yourself," she reminded herself. Then she began. The first notes came out clear and gentle. Her hands didn't tremble, her rhythm didn't falter. As she moved through the melody, the room grew quiet, so quiet she could almost hear her heartbeat blending with the music. Her fingers flowed smoothly, gliding across the keys. When she reached the transitions, the hardest part, she didn't hesitate. She played them with the confidence she had practiced so hard to build. The melody grew stronger, richer, deeper. It wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful, it was real. It carried emotion, courage, and all the strength Lily had found within herself. When she reached the final note, she held it gently, letting the sound fade into the silent auditorium. Then she lifted her hands from the keyboard. The room stayed completely still. No whispers, no giggles, no mocking, just silence, and then slowly applause began, soft at first, then louder, then filling the entire room. Students clapped. Teachers clapped, even those who doubted her clapped. Lily's eyes widened in shock. She had done it. She had truly done it. And in the middle of the applause, Lily looked toward Mrs. Alden. Her teacher's expression was unreadable, but her eyes had softened, not much, but enough for Lily to see respect. Real, genuine respect. For the first time ever, Lily felt proud, not because she proved her teacher wrong. Not because she impressed the class. Not because she didn't freeze, but because she believed in herself even when it seemed impossible. And her talent, her real, astonishing talent, had finally been seen. When Lily stepped off the stage, her legs felt shaky, not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming rush of everything she had just experienced. The applause still echoed in her ears as she walked down the small steps and into the wings of the auditorium. Her heart was racing, but it wasn't the anxious, painful beating she felt during Humiliation. This time her heartbeat felt strong, proud, alive. Her mother rushed to her the moment she reached the hallway, pulling her into a warm hug. "Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling, "that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." Lily felt tears rise, but these were different from before, light, happy tears. "Mom, I did it. I really did it." "What?" "Yes," her mother said, brushing Lily's hair gently. "And you did it with your heart. That's what made it special." Other parents nearby looked at Lily with surprised admiration. Even some of the students, those who once whispered hurtful things, now stared at her wide-eyed, impressed, and maybe even a little ashamed of how they had treated her. But the most surprising reaction came when Mrs. Alden approached. Lily stiffened instinctively. She wasn't sure if her teacher was angry, disappointed, or something else entirely. Mrs. Alden walked slowly, her heels tapping sharply against the floor. For a moment she simply stood in front of Lily, her face unreadable. Then, in a voice softer than Lily had ever heard, Mrs. Alden said, "Lily, that was excellent." Lily blinked. She wasn't sure she had heard correctly. "Excellent." Mrs. Alden gave a small, stiff nod. "Yes, you played with precision, but more importantly with emotion, something many students with perfect technique cannot do." Lily didn't know how to respond. She simply stared at her teacher, stunned. Mrs. Alden continued, "I underestimated you. You showed courage today. That is a rare quality." Lily felt warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't the compliment itself, it was the acknowledgement. For so long she had felt invisible, overlooked, or treated as a burden. But now, in just a few minutes of playing, the entire view of who she was changed. Her classmates soon gathered around her, some shy, some excited. "Lily, that was amazing. Where did you learn to play like that? You didn't even look scared." Lily smiled shyly. "I just played what I felt." One of the boys who used to laugh at her said softly, "Sorry for what I said before." "You're really good." Lily nodded, "Thank you." For the first time since joining the school, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel out of place. She didn't feel like the girl everyone expected to fail. She felt like someone who belonged. Someone who had earned respect, not through perfection, but through courage, practice, and heart. Later that afternoon, when everyone returned to class, Mrs. Alden announced the new rankings for the music department. Students leaned forward eagerly, whispering, and then, in third place, Lily Hart. Gasps filled the room. Lily herself froze. Third place, her, students who had trained for years, who always performed confidently, who never stumbled, she had finished above many of them. Mia turned to her, "Wow, Lily, congrats, you deserve it." Even Mrs. Alden gave her a small nod. Lily felt a joy she couldn't put into words. She had entered this school as a nervous girl who felt unworthy, unsure, and invisible. But through struggle and humiliation, something inside her had awakened. Her talent had always been there, quiet, hidden, waiting for courage to unlock it. As class ended, Mrs. Alden called out, "Lily, a moment please." What? Lily approached her desk cautiously. Mrs. Alden said, "I want you to join the advanced music group starting next week." Lily's eyes widened. "Advanced me?" "Yes," the teacher replied, "you have potential, but potential must be trained." "I expect hard work." Lily nodded eagerly, "I'll work very hard." Mrs. Alden allowed herself a small, rare smile. "I believe you will." When Lily walked out of the classroom that day, she felt as if the world had shifted under her feet. The hallways seemed brighter, the floor lighter beneath her steps. She still had fears, of course, fears every child has. But now she knew something she didn't know before. She was capable, she was strong, she was talented. And no matter how harsh the world could be, she had the power to rise above humiliation and shine. As she walked to meet her mother outside, she whispered to herself, "I'm proud of me." And she was. Not because she won, not because she impressed anyone, but because she discovered her own strength. A strength that would stay with her for the rest of her life. Strength that would stay with her for the rest of her life.